He's finally doing what's right, my mother-in-law texted me on the morning of my wedding. Everything's off. I nearly dropped my phone. But when I showed up at the ceremony, it all turned into a nightmare for them. I should have known something was off. The signs were there. My future mother-in-law, Harriet, never liked me. She acted nice when my fiancé, Michael, was around. But whenever we were alone, she made certain I knew she considered me unworthy of her son. She constantly questioned my wedding decisions, openly hated my chosen dress, and complained about the venue I had selected. She kept pushing her own ideas, and when I didn't agree, she would pout like a spoiled child. I initially thought she was just an overbearing mother, but I realize now how naive I was. I also thought Michael was different, that he would stand by me, but I was about to learn just how wrong I'd been. That morning, I woke up feeling excited, nervous, and ready. It was my wedding day, the day I'd planned for months, the day I'd spent thousands of dollars on. It was supposed to be the day I walked down the aisle to start my future with the man I loved. Then my phone buzzed. Harriet's text. "We've taken your dress. The venue is canceled, and your fiancé knows what's best. Don't make a scene, just accept it." At first, I thought I was still dreaming. My head felt light and my stomach churned as I read the message 3 times before it sank in. I shot upright so quickly I nearly tumbled out of bed. My heart pounded in my chest. Immediately, I called Michael. Voicemail. I tried my maid of honor, Amanda. No answer. I called the venue, and a hesitant woman on the other end said, "Oh yes, Michael called early this morning and canceled everything. I'm so sorry." My hands shook. This couldn't be real. I tore through my closet. My dress was gone. My chosen shoes were missing, even my veil. My panic turned into something sharper, something dangerous. They had plotted this, waited until the very last moment to yank the rug from under me, hoping I'd be too devastated to fight back. They were so very wrong. I threw on the first clothes I could grab and snatched my keys. If my dress was missing, then someone had definitely taken it. My first thought was to rush to Michael's house, but a hunch told me not to waste my time. Instead, I sped straight to Harriet's. The second she opened the door, I saw the smugness in her eyes. She didn't even pretend surprise. She just sighed and leaned against the doorframe like I was a mere inconvenience. "You need to calm down," she said. Calm down? I stood there in sweatpants on the morning of my wedding, with this woman, this witch, telling me to calm down. "Where's my dress?" I demanded. Harriet didn't so much as blink. "It's gone and you won't need it anyway. The wedding is off." I felt the blood pound in my ears. "You don't have the power to cancel my wedding." That smug smirk appeared again, and I wanted to slap it off her face. Michael made the call. He's doing what's best. I took a shaking breath. Where is he? Busy. I have no idea how I managed not to scream or break something. I realized I wasn't going to get anything out of her, so I left. But I was nowhere near finished. If Harriet had arranged something so extreme, there was no way she'd merely canceled my wedding. She must have gone even further. A dark feeling gnawed at my gut, and I had to find answers. So I drove to the venue, and that's when I saw it. Cars pulling into the parking lot, guests arriving, the entire place decorated exactly as I'd planned. Because the wedding wasn't really canceled. It just wasn't my wedding anymore. I got out of my car and walked inside without anyone stopping me. People I recognized, people invited to what was supposed to be my wedding, smiled in greeting, apparently unaware of what was happening. I made it through the doors and stepped into the main hall, and there she was, Cassie, in a wedding dress. My wedding dress. My vision blurred with fury, my body turning cold. Cassie had once been my friend. She'd always been close to Michael, but I'd overlooked her flirty comments, those playful touches, the way she stared at him when she thought I wasn't watching. I'd been so naive. Now she was standing at my altar with my fiancé, wearing my gown, at my wedding, as though I had never even existed. The betrayal felt suffocating. It pressed in on me, crushing my chest, making me feel like I was sinking. Michael stood beside her, calm and relaxed, as if this wasn't the most deranged, humiliating, and outright psychotic thing he'd ever done. That's when it fully clicked. None of this was last minute or impulsive. It was planned. Michael had allowed me to spend months organizing this wedding, sending out invitations, spending a fortune, while secretly planning to marry someone else. He had intended for me to wake up on the big day, find everything cancelled, and fade from his life like some former girlfriend. They wanted to erase me, and they expected me to simply vanish. They had no idea who they were dealing with. I stood there, numb, while guests chatted happily and found their seats, oblivious that this wasn't just any wedding. It was a hijacking. Harriet was at the front, beaming proudly, probably thinking she had committed the perfect crime. Cassie adjusted my veil, glowing like some fake angel. And Michael? He showed no trace of nerves or guilt, no sign of wondering where I might be because he was in on it. Something inside me cracked. I should have broken down in tears, but instead, a strange calm settled over me. They had stolen my dress, my venue, my fiancé, and my wedding, but I still remained. I squared my shoulders and strode forward. People began to take notice, some recognizing me, whispering to each other. Nobody stopped me until I reached the front row. Harriet's gaze locked with mine, and I saw fear flicker there for the first time. She jumped up, trying to physically block me from wrecking her fantasy. "You need to leave," she hissed. I smiled, actually smiled. "I think I'll stay." The whispering intensified. Guests nudged each other. My cousin Kayla was staring, her eyes wide. My gaze landed on Amanda, my maid of honor and supposed best friend, and I sensed the guilt on her face. My stomach lurched. I had been betrayed by Michael, by my so-called friend Cassie, and by Harriet. But Amanda too? That betrayal cut the deepest. She opened her mouth as if to offer some excuse, but I wasn't in the mood to hear it. Harriet, trying to maintain control, forced a saccharine smile. "You weren't invited," she said. I laughed, loud enough to echo. "Really? Because last I checked, this was my wedding." Michael turned then. His face looked blank, but a telltale panic flickered in his eyes. Cassie, standing next to him, went pale. People were definitely watching now. He stepped forward with a practiced calm in his voice. "Let's not do this here." I tilted my head. "But you did want to do this here, didn't you?" I gestured around. "Since you planned it all behind my back." Cassie grabbed Michael's arm like she could somehow fix this. "Look, we didn't," she started. I cut her off. "Didn't what, Cassie? Didn't steal my fiancé? Didn't wear my dress? Didn't stand around like a vulture waiting to take my spot after I'd spent months planning every little detail?" Her mouth opened and closed uselessly. I turned to Michael, my voice suddenly steady. "How long?" I asked. He said nothing. "How long have you been plotting this?" Still nothing. Cassie fidgeted, stammering. "It just happened." I let out a cold laugh. "It just happened? Oh, so you just tripped and fell into my dress? Into my fiancé's bed?" Harriet sighed dramatically. "Stop making a scene." I spun toward her. "You orchestrated this, didn't you?" She refused to deny it. I gave a tight nod as an icy calm spread through me. "You know what, Harriet? I was prepared to tolerate you, prepared to be the bigger person for the sake of marrying your son. But now," I stepped closer and lowered my voice, so only she could hear. "Now I'm going to destroy you." She flinched, which was oddly satisfying. Finally, Michael spoke, far too calmly. "It's over, all right? Let's just move on." "Move on?" I felt something inside me snap. "Fine," I said, pulling out my phone. "Let's inform everyone exactly what's going on." I pressed play on a recording. Harriet's voice blared through the speakers. "We've taken your dress. The venue is cancelled, and your fiancé knows what's best." Then Michael's voice. "Babe, I'm sorry, but my mom is right. You're just not good enough. Cassie is better suited for me. She'll be a proper wife." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone dropped a champagne glass with a loud clink. Cassie retreated a step from Michael, looking horrified. Harriet's face drained of color, and Michael suddenly seemed like he might vomit. I took a steady breath and let the moment sink in, then leaned toward Cassie, staring her straight in the eyes. "Still want him?" I asked. She bolted. Harriet turned on Michael. "You told her that?" He stood frozen, as though his brain had shut down. I pulled out another document. "And you know what else I have?" I asked, unfolding the paper slowly. "The bill for this wedding." Harriet's head snapped around. "What?" "You see," I said, "Michael and I signed financial agreements before all of this, meaning he owes me for every cent. Her mouth dropped open. $35,000, I read off the page, adding dramatic emphasis. Due immediately. Michael's expression was pure horror. That's not, he started, but I shrugged. It's all in writing, I said, my tone casual. Signed. Legal. Then I let a vindictive smile form. And if you don't pay? I leaned in closer, savoring their terror. Well, I do so enjoy a juicy public scandal. Harriet looked like she might faint. Michael stammered. You can't. Oh, I can, I snapped back. Then I turned to the crowd. Everyone, please enjoy the show, because it's definitely not over yet. Michael looked cornered. Harriet's jaw worked, but no words emerged. Many of the guests were gawking, phones out, capturing every delicious second of the meltdown. Cassie was nowhere to be seen, probably for the best. But Amanda, my supposed best friend, remained rooted, guilt written all over her face. I wasn't done. Michael and Harriet had taken everything from me, hoping I would be too ashamed or distraught to retaliate. They had gravely underestimated me. Now I intended to ruin them. Harriet was about to speak, possibly to shriek more excuses, when the doors swung open. A man in a crisp suit entered, briefcase in hand. Apologies for the interruption, he called out, loud enough for all to hear. Michael's face turned ashen, because this man was my lawyer. He nodded at me. Everything is in order, he said. I couldn't help but smile. Excellent timing. Harriet practically clung to Michael's arm, trying to keep him upright. You got a lawyer? She spat at me. I turned to her. Of course I did. You and your son stole my wedding, my money, and my time. Did you really think I wouldn't arm myself legally? More gasps broke out among the spectators. Some people whispered animatedly. Michael tried to sound dismissive. This is ridiculous. My lawyer didn't even look at him. According to the signed financial agreement, you, Michael, are legally obligated to cover every wedding expense. Michael choked on his own breath. $35,000, the lawyer repeated. Non-negotiable. Harriet lost it, shrieking, This is a scam. The lawyer remained unflappable. No, ma'am, it's binding. You planned the wedding, then switched the bride at the last minute. That means your son is now responsible for the cost. The color drained further from Michael's face. You have until the end of the day, my lawyer added, before legal action will be taken. A waiter coughed to conceal a laugh. Somewhere in the crowd, someone muttered, Holy sh... Another voice chimed in. Wait! It was Amanda speaking up with a shaky voice. I turned, unsure if I even wanted to listen, but she looked miserable. She inhaled raggedly. I knew. More sharp gasps. Michael whipped his head around. Amanda, shut up, he growled. She shook her head. No, I can't keep lying. Tears gathered in her eyes. Harriet told me weeks ago, she confessed. She told me they planned to replace you. She said you weren't the right kind of wife for Michael. My stomach twisted. My best friend had known? Amanda wiped her tears. I wanted to warn you, I swear, but Harriet threatened me. She said if I told you anything, she'd ruin me, make sure I lost my job. I blinked. Your job? The guests murmured, exchanging disbelieving glances. Amanda looked down, face burning with shame. Harriet owns the firm I work at. She said she'd fire me if I ever told you. Harriet folded her arms. And I would have. Boos rose from sections of the crowd. Someone yelled, Seriously? Amanda turned, pleading eyes toward me. I'm sorry, I was weak. I should have told you. I raised a hand. I couldn't deal with all of this at once. Turning to Harriet and Michael, I asked, You really threatened my best friend's career just to get rid of me? Harriet rolled her eyes. It's called handling problems. I blew out a tense breath. Unbelievable. But Amanda wasn't finished. She faced Michael with trembling hands. Tell her the rest. Michael froze. Harriet snarled, Amanda, don't you dare. Amanda's voice rose in defiance. Tell her the rest, Michael. Silence descended, thick and suffocating. I watched Michael's expression crumple. Whatever this rest was, it would be worse than anything I'd already heard. I stepped forward. Michael. He refused to meet my eyes. Tell me, I demanded. At last he swallowed, fists tight, jaw clenched. Then he spoke in a grim mutter. Cassie's pregnant. The room erupted. I staggered with the force of that single word, pregnant. I heard the gasps, the sudden hush in conversation, The outraged whispers. Cassie, my friend, had stolen my fiancé, worn my dress, hijacked my wedding, and now she carried his child? And they expected me to just vanish? Michael dared look regretful, as if a simple apology might mend everything. I glanced at Harriet. So that's what this was about, I said quietly. That's why you wanted me gone. She shrugged, like it was common sense. Cassie's giving my son an heir. An heir. As though we were in the Middle Ages, I barked out a short, humorless laugh. Michael cringed. I didn't intend for it to happen like this, he tried to say. Stop, I told him firmly. Just stop. Turning to the crowd, I said, let's have a big round of applause for Michael and Cassie, expecting a baby after utterly betraying me. Someone actually clapped. A woman near the back muttered something about needing more popcorn. Michael looked miserable. Harriet was fuming. I was so done with them all. I turned to my lawyer. Are we done here? He nodded. I'll handle the rest. Perfect. I straightened my shirt and strode down the aisle, the very one I'd intended to walk in a white gown, past all the stunned guests, past the onlookers' whispers, past Harriet glowering with anger. I didn't stop or glance back. Michael did call after me. Of course he did, but I ignored him. Later, Michael tried calling and texting me, desperate to explain, to fix things, to ask for another chance. I never replied. Cassie apparently vanished. Rumor had it she moved out of state and no one knew exactly where. Harriet ended up losing everything. Her precious reputation plummeted after the scandal went public. Michael's business deals collapsed too. People no longer trusted him. Harriet, furious that he had cost her so much, ultimately disowned him and moved away. Karma, I suppose. Me, I moved to a new city, found a real job and made genuine friends. I refused to look back. That was how I truly won, not just by exposing them in front of everyone and getting monetary compensation, but by walking away with my head high and building a life they couldn't even tarnish. When I remember that morning, when I recall Harriet's text, the horrifying betrayal, that entire circus of a ceremony, I don't feel any pain or anger. All I feel is nothing, and that sense of absolute peace, that is the best revenge of all.